Hello, family. Welcome back to the Bailout Mindset, where we talk about finance, entrepreneurship, and investing. And in our today's video, we are going to be talking about what does the concept of the Bailout Mindset actually mean, so that the more you follow us in our video series, you may be aware how this channel might be of value to you. So stay tuned. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles: Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and TikTok. Yeah, my name is Simon Mwaniki, and I'm going to be your host of today. So let's dive right into our subject of today. Our subject is very simple. What is the bailout mindset? When we think about the bailout mindset, or when you think about the bailout mindset, you think about one, big corporations; two, the government; three, usually the central bank or the federal bank is usually involved. Why do I say the three elements are involved? Because one, bailout simply means getting somebody out of a bad financial situation, and it is usually attributed to making poor financial decisions or big catastrophes that tend to affect the whole economy, which in turn can lead to collapse of some organizations. For example, in 2020, majority of us millennials at least have observed 2020. When we talk about the 2008 housing bubble, like, most millennials don't actually understand the magnitude of the 2008 bubble. So we are going to refer to the 2020 pandemic. When COVID came, most economies decided to shut down, and many industries actually collapsed or went bankrupt because, one, they were not functioning, nobody was actually doing any economic activity. And as a result, due to the effect of the pandemic, many people were locked at home. And so especially the traveling, the transport industry, the airline industry, the hospitality industry, and many other, and the entertainment industry, they were very, very highly affected. And by entertainment, I'm usually talking about sports. I'm not talking about Hollywood, even though Hollywood was actually affected, but more so the ones who are really affected, and the big banks were also affected because people are no longer depositing or withdrawing their cash. People are no longer investing during the pandemic. And so we found ourselves in a situation that actually could give us a glimpse of some of the factors that can actually lead to the collapse of nations, businesses, and what are some of the measures that the government can actually take in order to ensure the survival of such businesses. The reason why the government usually bails out such corporations and such businesses, it's because they have way too much of a big effect. When they collapse, people are going to get unemployed. When people are unemployed, the rate of crime usually increases, especially here in Africa and in Kenya. When the crime rate increases, usually the rate of uneducation increases, and so many other ripple effects that actually go down with the collapse of big organizations. Right now, if Safaricom collapses and it has hired around 1 million people, that is 1 million people who are going to be unemployed. That's 1 million people directly employed. We haven't counted the ones who are indirectly employed by Safaricom. Same case applies with banks like Cooperative, Kenya Airways, and so on and so forth. And we have seen severally these companies being bailed out. For example, Kenya Airways is a very good example. They always get bailed out. I think every year you have to hear them on the news. They have been bailed out. They are suffering. They are experiencing losses, and so on and so forth. And those are one of the reasons that our current presidents want to privatize some of these entities that are owned by the government, because usually when something is privatized, it means that entrepreneurs are in control and they can actually create something valuable out of the current business model or the current structure. So the bailout simply means getting anybody out of a bad financial situation. And here in Africa, it is a fact that we are really in one of the worst financial situations anywhere in the globe that is being experienced. The rate of unemployment is quite high. We have so many youths who are out there, they are unemployed. Some people do not actually have value, and by value I mean that you can't do anything that will generate you some sort of income. So here we emphasize that one of the ways that you can actually bail yourself out beyond the poverty line, and when we talk about the poverty line, anybody who is living below $2, he's below the poverty line. That was according to the World Bank, and those are 2019-2020 statistics. So due to the rate of inflation, and inflation simply means the rate at which your money loses its value. So due to the rate of inflation, if right now $2 are easy, ni around 300 Kenya shillings, you know. So if you are living below 300, and I will say due to the current rate of inflation, the rate of inflation is not at 24% as the government is saying. The rate of inflation is typically around 40 to 45%. Those are the actual statistics, the real statistics that nobody is going to tell you. So that simply means that kama unaishi na less than 400 to 500 Kenya shillings, wewe umesota, iangaliange hivyo. So jiulize, kama unaishi na so moja ama unakulanga so moja padi ama so mbili, wewe uko wapi? Unaona? And the only way we can get you out of that situation is through financial education and an entrepreneurship mindset. So now that you understand what poverty really means, or what the poverty line really means, then the next question is, now that you know what the poverty line is and the ratio at which you are in, then you need to ask yourself the next question, and this question is simple as this: what is poverty? When you look at the Western countries, they have really come to grasp the concept of what poverty is. That's why they do not work for a whole month in order for them to get paid. To them, they have come to understand that money is correlated with time, and in actuality, money is simply, first of all, time. Those who have the plentiest of time in the world are the actual richest people in the whole world. Warren Buffett can be worth right now more than 40 or 50 billion or even 100 billion, but he's 75 years old. This guy doesn't have time as a luxury. So this guy is technically, he's poor time-wise, but he's rich monetary-wise, or in terms of assets. So also here in Africa, we need to really understand poverty, and poverty simply means one thing. Poverty is the lack of understanding what your money is. Because in Africa, the problem is not land, the problem is not human capital, the problem is ignorance, the problem is financial illiteracy, and that as a result has led us to a lot of suffering. And when you hear people out there, or when you hear statistics, you will hear people say Uganda has the largest number of young entrepreneurs in the whole world. You will hear people say Kenya has the largest number of entrepreneurs in the whole world. And you keep on wondering, if we have such huge magnitude of people who are practicing entrepreneurship as a career or as a venture, then why are we still suffering a high rate of poverty in our country? Well, one, it is attributed to the fact that we haven't understood what poverty means. And as I explained earlier, poverty is the lack of understanding what your money is. The moment you do not understand your money, by default you will become poor, because you are going to look for money that depreciates or money that is actually papers. And don't get confused by that. There is a difference between money and types of money. Money is anything that you can use as a form of exchanging value. Meanwhile, there are different forms of money. You can have shares as a form of money, you can have currency as a form of money, you can have land as a form of money, you can have a certain skill as a form of money. Why is it a form of money? Because the moment you implement it, that's when you start earning the money. And in the earlier days here in Africa, we used to perform what is called barter trade. And it was a very good example of what our money actually was. Our grandparents or our predecessors will go and give out goats, and they will be given gold and spices by the Arabs. When you go back to the Arab trade that used to take place in the coastal region, especially of the East African coastline, we used to exchange food for spices. We used to exchange slaves for money, which was either gold, cowrie shells, silver, and so on and so forth. So our relatives, our predecessors, really did understand that money, because in the earlier days there was no currency, there was no the 100 Kenya shillings, the 200 Kenya shillings, the 10,000 Uganda shillings, and so on and so forth. There were no such types of currencies. What existed were hard money or real money, which I usually refer to it as real money, because real money is gold, silver, anything that is tangible that will not lose its value by tomorrow. Spices, human capital, and that's why you hear we are always getting out of our country, going to the Western countries, for example, the United States, Europe, Australia, looking for greener pastures. I will tell you this, hakuna greener pastures ziko huko. Greener pastures ni hapa Africa. And if you can't get rich in Africa, you can never get rich in any place in the world, despite the fact that it is easier to get rich in countries like the United States and Europe rather than in Africa. But that's the topic that we're going to be discussing in our future videos. You can always feel free to comment on the comment section below, and we are going to be looking at it. What I simply mean is that since we have not understood what our money is, it has resulted us to face what we call poverty. And as I mentioned earlier, in Africa we are not poor. We are wealthy, but we are poor. We are poor wealthy. In the Western countries, they might not have resources, but they are rich intellectually. That's why these people, you see, they work per hour, they get paid per hour, because they understand if you are valuable, your value needs to be measured per unit time. Therefore, what have you accomplished in an hour? What have you accomplished in 2 hours? What have you accomplished in 3 hours? So that way, it becomes more easier for them to make more of the currency, because their value can actually be calculated. Their value is visible. Meanwhile, when we come here in Africa, we are still getting paid per month. So imagine if you are getting paid per 12 hours and somebody is getting paid. That's unapata vijana wameamua kwenda kufanya kazi online, sababu they start understanding money in quite a different concept, rather than the one that we have been raised or that we have been educated to go with. So how do we bail out ourselves, or how do you bail out yourself as an African entrepreneur? First, you need to understand your money. And your money is, first of all, anybody who is less than 30 years old. To you, I will say you consider yourself you're a 10 billionaire, because you have not less than 30 billion seconds in your tab. So we can say you are a 30 billionaire in terms of time. But in terms of money, you might be broke, or you might have some few pennies. So that's the first thing you need to grasp, that your time is, first of all, your strength, and secondly, it is what you know that you can apply in order to provide value to other people. For example, kama unaendanga unachapa mjei, that is your value. You can be able to construct houses. For example, kama unaendanga kwa soko unauza mboga, you go and sell vegetables in a grocery, that's your value. For example, when you go to school and you start learning to become a doctor, you're equipping yourself with the necessary skills that will increase your value in order to be able to treat people, to treat animals. So you need to look at it as money is simply knowledge. And the moment you understand that money is knowledge, every time you're broke or poor, just know you know less about money, and you know how to do a few things. In fact, in the current century, you cannot survive if you know only less than 3 to 2 skills. You cannot survive with those skills in our generation. In our generation, you need to be aware at least of a minimum I think 5 to 10 skills can make you climb your way up to the top of the winner's circle, but less than 5 skills, I can guarantee you hiyo maneno ya kusema unataka kukuwa tajiri, unataka kuomoka, hiyo ni propaganda. Not unless you start thinking of ways like embezzling money and so on and so forth. And those will not make you rich. They will still make you poor because, as I explained, poverty is not the lack of money. Poverty is the lack of understanding what your money is. That's why we have so many people in Africa who have a lot of money. Everybody in Africa has a chunk of land somewhere that is either from their ancestors, that is either in their family name, but bado wako huku Nairobi wanahangaika, wanatafuta pesa. Everybody has enough strength, has enough energy to go out there and put and make an output that will generate them some sort of valuable income. So every time you find yourself in a poverty situation or in a poor situation, just know one thing. Wewe ujui pesa yako nini, you don't know what your money is. And here the bailout mindset, we want to enlighten you so that you may know what your money is. And it all goes hand in hand with financial education and entrepreneurship. Every rich and successful person in our continent has created wealth one way or another through entrepreneurship. You talk about Uhuru, you talk about Chandaria, you talk about Yoweri Museveni, who some people think of him as a dictator. To me, I don't look at our politicians as dictators. I simply look at them as entrepreneurs who also have another career, which is, you can be a political entrepreneur. Just as we have tenderpreneurs, we have infopreneurs, we have entrepreneurs, we have entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is a very, very big field, and it has very many sectors that you can venture into depending on your passion, depending on your character, depending on your resilience, and also how innovative and ambitious you are. When you hear people like Aliko Dangote, these people, they have simply invested in cement. Why? Because they understand Africa is at the brink of really growing exponentially, and people are going to be building houses. People are going to be in need of cement. There are people who do garbage collections. It's because they have come to realize our population is growing and growing, and we need to have people who can be collecting this trash that people are disposing all over. So there are many ways that you can make money in Africa. The only thing is that you need to figure out what kind of money you're looking for and how can you really earn it. So having a bailout mindset is having a mindset that elevates your creativity, that elevates the way you perceive the world in terms of education. You look at education differently. The bailout mindset is the bailout mindset that simply enables you to equip yourself with more value, because the more you increase your value, the more you increase your earning capacity. The people whom we see, even our friends out there that we see that are earning a lot of money, they're earning a lot of money because it's going hand in hand with the quality of education that they have had now. There are two different types of education. We have people who are school smarts and we have people who are street smarts. And the only difference is that street smarts usually understand how business is done in Africa, while school smarts usually understand more of the corporate level. I usually understand of the white collar side of the industry. So I will say these are well educated people like doctors, lawyers, physicians, accountants, and so on and so forth. It doesn't mean you need to go to school in order to become a good accountant. You can always go out there and apply a philosophy that we strongly believe in the bailout mindset, which is none other than self-development and self-education. If you settle or focus in any of the three subjects, negotiation, sales, leadership, and entrepreneurship, you're going to become rich and wealthy one way or another. But these are things you can never go and learn at schools. These are things that you need to go there and read these self-help groups. And we are at an advantage in this generation whereby Previously, our parents could never become rich the way we can get rich because information was restricted. Eh, Buda yako most likely kama umezaliwa 1995, 1996, 1999 hakuweza kuaccess internet, angewahi hataweza kuaccess Google, angewahi weza kununua vitabu kama za akina Jim Rohn, sijui akina Robert Kiyosaki, akina Robert Greene, akina John Maxwell and so on and so forth. So information was really limited, and that's why poverty was rampant, because you can't innovate much when you don't have somewhere where you can get the resources to refer from. And na ndio maana tukaka tunasikia story ati sijui Kenya tushaitengeneza ndege, ati mara Uganda washaitengeneza gari, but you couldn't see these inventions. But in the current generation, information is free, and ignorance is simply the cost of not going out there and getting the right information that you need. And what do I mean by that? Saizi unaweza ingia Google and you can Google about everything. You want to learn about marketing, you can go right now into Google and you can Google and you get more than 100 books all about marketing. You want to know about sales, you can get books about sales. You want to know about cars, you can get every book that you need in order to know how to manufacture a car. You want to know how to make desks, you want to know how to do plumbing, you want to know how to do metalworks. Anything that you need to know right now is accessible on your fingertips. And if you're watching this video, I will say you're already rich because you have access to vast sources of information. And this is quite an advantage to us. It simply means you don't need to go to the United States right now to learn something in order to come and implement it in Africa. You can go there and do your research. You can watch videos. You can watch how the industries works. You can watch what they're implementing, and you can be able to take the same solutions from these developed countries and implement them to our underdeveloped countries, and you're still going to make money, because here in Africa you can make money from anything. Unaweza unda do kutoka kwa kuokota takataka, unaweza unda do kutoka kwa kukua kiateka, unaweza unda do kutoka kwa kulima, unaweza unda do kutoka kwa kuokota chupa, unaweza unda do kutoka kwa kuokota scrap. Hizo hata sijaanza kuongelelea sasa kutengeneza vijiko, fork, plastics. And these things don't need huge sums of capital in order to be actualized. They just need creativity. They need you to be able to learn how to go out there and pitch to investors. They need you to be able to go there and learn how to build a business. And if you consider yourself a business person and you haven't registered your business, we always say you are not in business because you have no proof that you're doing business, rather than the income that is coming in and the expenses that are going out. Yeah, we always encourage, if you are a bailout mindset or if you're part of the bailout community, you always need to make sure that you have your business registered so that people can actually see the value that you are creating. You see, the biggest challenge in Africa is that we can't see the value that people have created. As a result, poverty runs over us almost every single day. Tukiendelea kulalamika economy sijui nini, no, actually the more problems you have, the more chances of becoming richer you have. It is now difficult to become rich in China or in the United States because they have fewer problems. And that's why they're implementing things like artificial intelligence. They are trying to automate as many things as possible because for them, one, they have a lack of human capital. When you look at the oldest person in the United States and the oldest person in Africa, or the youngest person in the United States and the youngest person in Africa, you will realize that in Africa we have so many young people, unlike in the United States, unlike in the UK. And that's why they are coming here. They are requesting for one thing and one thing alone from our presidents. They are requesting for human capital because they do not have enough labor to work in their plants, to work in their industries, to work in their homesteads. Why? They are not giving birth, first of all. Secondly, they think they are way too advanced that they no longer need children, and that is the advantage we have here. Our parents used to give birth to many children because they really believed that having a lot of people in your family or in your community is another form of money, because you can achieve a lot when you're many rather than when you're few. So now that you are at least aware of some of the reasons why you're poor, because one, you don't understand your money. Two, you're not self-educating yourself. 3, you're not self-developing yourself. And why is that? Because you are working more on other people's businesses. You are so concerned on other people's businesses that you are not concerned on your own. And what is your own? If you just go back, let's say if you have an acre from your grandfather and you go and cultivate on the same piece of land for 6 months or for an year, I guarantee you, you're going to become a Kenya millionaire. There is a difference between an African millionaire and a dollar millionaire. The only difference is in the value of the currency. If you have 1 million Kenya shillings right now, you have less than $10,000. That is the difference. That's why tunapenda kuenda majuu. That's why tunapenda kuenda. That's why the green card is our dream. Well, I totally believe that having an American passport or living the American dream is one of the best things that can happen to any African, because you are really going to enlighten your mind. And even the people who have actually run our nations to the peak of civilizations are the ones who have gone. Look at Jomo Kenyatta. Look at the likes of Uhuru Kenyatta. Why do you think our presidents are always going out there? They're not going there just to look for money. They are going out there to expand their view on the way the world operates so that they can bring that innovation into our countries. And they can't teach us on how to go about with these innovations. The best they can do is that they can bring these ideas to us, and we can now build onto those ideas. And we can only build onto those ideas by feeding ourselves with the necessary knowledge that we need. Saizi majua wako in the digital generation, they are now going to the artificial intelligence generation. I don't know how that's going to be working out. Sisi ndio tunaingia the industrial revolution. Just look at those two different things. So wewe ukiendelea hapo kufikiria vile utafanya kitu online miaka 5 lakini ujipate una career, ingia pale, fungua biashara yako ya mjengo, tafuta watu wengine 5 wanafanya mjengo, let them be your contractors. Go there and look for people who are constructing these buildings and request them to give you a contract. You're going to be making money, my friend. So mtu usikuwe kijana huko na useme hakuna pesa. Usikuwe kijana huko na ulie uchukie ati vile wewe ni maskini. Hapana. Wewe ni maskini sababu ya kujitakia. Na sisi tuko hapa kuhakikisha umejitoa kwa hiyo hali ya umaskini. Na unaweza jitoa tu kwa hiyo hali ukianza kuelewa pesa yako ni nini. Tumekubaliana pesa yako ya kwanza ni wakati na nguvu. So you're going to utilize those two things. You're going to utilize those two elements. If you have little knowledge, you can adjust on that. If you have little energy, unaweza enda upige chuma, unaweza enda ukimbie. You know, we have so many things that unaweza enda ulime na bado utashona. You know, we have so many opportunities because right now I can say civilization sasa ndio imeanza vizuri Afrika. Hizo miaka zingine iangalie ilikuwa kujaribu, watu hawajui bado vile wanafaa kufanya. Sasa hizi unafaa kujua because everything is structured, all the necessary equipments or tools are there that can make you rich. You're just not using them, and that's why you're in the position that you're in. But we hope you're no longer going to be in the same position after subscribing to our channel and clicking the notification bell below so that you may receive more valuable content from us. Therefore, stay tuned, and if you have more questions about the bailout mindset, you can always go to the comment section and comment whatever question you have, and we are always going to be looking at it in our future videos. Therefore, stay tuned. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and follow us on our respective social media platforms. My name is Simon Moneki, and I hope this video bails you out beyond the poverty line, because let me tell you, do you know what is beyond the poverty line? What is beyond the poverty line is money and freedom. And that is the difference between a rich man, a poor man, and a wealthy man. A poor man has no choice. A rich man has choices that he can afford. A wealthy man has all the choices that he can pick from anytime, anywhere. And so we believe that if you want to get to that level of wealthy, then you need to start right now.